Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Down by Contact Football, DBC Football, Episode 9. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at DBC_football. Check us out on the web, www.dbcfootball.com. And, of course, check us out on our YouTube channel, DBC Football. Head on over to our website if you want to check out our blog and photo galleries. And make sure you subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. Thanks for joining us, everyone. As always, I'm here joined by Tom. Tom, how are you?
Not too bad.
All right, and I'm joined by Bill. Bill, how you doing?
Greetings and salutations. I am doing very well. How are you?
Fantastic. Couldn't be better. Eagles are getting off to their Super Bowl start. Their rookie mini camps going on, you know?
Well, as a lot of rival fans like to say, we've already won the offseason Super Bowl. We win that every year, according to them.
Of course.
Dream team.
Right, Tom?
Dream team. Can't forget.
Dream team.
Hey, Vince Young ain't on that team anymore.
It's true. It's true. Vince Young is not on any team. He's working on a comeback. I believe him and Manziel. You know, they're out there. They're floating out there if you ever need them.
To be fair, Manziel's not like 32 years old.
To be fair, Vince Young was the rookie of the year, and Johnny Manziel never did anything. No, that's a fact. That's a fact.
I mean, he did things, just nothing good and nothing for the NFL.
You can't say he didn't do things.
Fair
He
enough.
didn't do things well.
He wore a blonde wig and did cocaine. All right.
Who hasn't?
I mean, I haven't.
Right. Most normal, although that's relative, normal people. Anyhow, I digress. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to kick it off here. Segment we started last week. Tom, this date in NFL history, what do you got for us?
Well, we changed it to This Week in NFL History just because it's kind of hard to find something just for single days, especially in the off season.
And if you're doing a weekly show, if there's something interesting, you don't want to go like, well, I can't put that on there because, well, that would be tomorrow.
Exactly.
So on May 17th in 1969, the Baltimore Colts, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers agreed to join the AFC in the newly merged NFL.
Great.
And on May 18th of 1935, then Eagles owner Bert Bell proposed the draft, which was unanimously passed and held the following February.
Sure was.
Now, some notable birthdays this week. I'll just throw off a couple names. We have Emmitt Smith, one of the greatest running backs in NFL history.
Why is that notable?
Why is it not?
Just kidding. Emmitt Smith, career leading rush leader.
Ray
leading
Lewis.
rush leader?
Yeah.
Career leader in rushing yards of the NFL.
Ray Lewis has the same birthday as Emmitt Smith.
Two legends.
Yeah, Thurman Thomas, Archie Manning, who I guess
The most famous father in NFL history.
Let's put it that way. I was gonna say give birth, but he wasn't the one who gave birth. I didn't know how to phrase it. And head coach Bud Grant, former
Bud
head
Grant,
coach.
Vikings, right?
Yeah,
The Purple People Eaters.
definitely.
Yeah. Fran Tarkington and the bunch.
And we can't forget last year's MVP Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan from Exton, PA.
Yeah, so
Matty
just
Ice.
a few birthdays. Happy birthday to those guys this week.
Look at that. So hopefully Matt Ryan got himself a nice birthday cake after leading the NFL in passer rating last year.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking for the entire city of Philadelphia, you're welcome for the draft.
Exactly.
We gave it.
We gave it.
You enjoy it.
That's right. All right, so fun segment. We got to learn, now I know, Ray Lewis's birthday.
Yeah.
All right.
Until I forget it.
Until I forget it. So, jumping on into the next segment here, we have news around the league, the haps of the NFL. First up, being that we're local to Philadelphia, Brandon Graham, the holdout that never happened. What do you think, Tom?
It's really a non-story at this point. I mean, somebody obviously came out and said he was unhappy with his contract. Nothing really came from it, so I feel like it's kind of a dead story now.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like there's a few of those every year where it almost makes me just wonder if, maybe the agent is testing the waters to see what reaction will be, see if it spars a quick reaction from the team, maybe some money thrown around. But, yeah, Brandon Graham, wouldn't be wise for him to hold out. He didn't have the best year last year. Obviously, he's a very talented player at a great position of need for many teams.
He's definitely one of the better defensive ends, in the entire league, regardless of if last year wasn't his best. But it wasn't the best for the line, period, which was unfortunate, but there it is.
Yeah, but the Eagles are deep at the end, and now that they've drafted Derek Barnett with Vinnie Curry and also Chris Long, Brandon Graham didn't have a whole lot of leverage anyway if he were to hold out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a non-story to begin with. Who knows? It might have been the agent testing the water, like you said. It also could have just been someone speculating in conversation, noting that Vinnie Curry makes more money. Obviously, he's not a starter,
Right.
which is something that is peculiar, but it's not uncommon in the league. So it could have been just something like that, a rumor that started out of nothing.
Right. Okay, and with that, I don't think we need to spend any more time there. Seattle's backup plan. So Pete Carroll confirmed as much that they are looking at Robert Griffin III and Colin Kaepernick as potential backup quarterbacks to Russell Wilson. Be interested to get a hot take on either of those quarterbacks, but just an interesting side note, how ironic would it be if RG3 ended up backing up Russell Wilson, being that they're both from the 2012 draft, and obviously, there was once a conversation as to the Colts should take RG3 and not Andrew Luck.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, has that changed.
Good thing they did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Griffin seemed to be the good guy that year, but
Yeah.
not so much.
That
Yeah,
all came
rookie of the
crashing
year.
down.
Right.
Yeah.
The injury, he was never the same after that.
Never really learned how to throw from the pocket
Right.
consistently, at least.
Certainly seemed, this may or may not be a factor, but certainly seemed to let the fame go to his head.
Mm-hmm.
Had special demands in the locker room, and players started to resent him. There's, the reports out of the Redskins while he was there,
Oh, yeah.
which is why, a lot of guys respected Kirk Cousins and flocked to him.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? You think either of these guys, whether or not they end up in Seattle as the backup or anywhere else, do you think we ever see Colin Kaepernick or RG3 start another game in the NFL?
I don't think they'll start unless somebody gets injured.
So is that a yes or a no?
I mean, because if they go to Seattle, Russell Wilson doesn't really miss time. So I don't really, if they're in Seattle, it's more just an emergency plan. And I mean, he plays hurt, so I don't really see them getting much of a chance unless a serious injury happens.
Something like surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least from what I saw last year, Robert Griffin III probably has no place starting an NFL game for the rest of his career. He just didn't look. He looked like a shell of that, rookie of the year player. Cap, I mean, he had his moments in San Francisco. Obviously, that was a terrible team, and for him to come in and still play halfway decent.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of speculation about his off the field stuff. People are worried about whether or not he, the things that he stands for, this, that, or the other. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that. Obviously, do whatever you believe in. It's America.
Yeah. I mean, both
But
players.
I don't think players should be penalized for standing up for what they believe in.
I mean, it is hard in that it is a business and you're an owner of a team. You want to take someone on like that you worry that the fans might not buy tickets to the games. You worry about losing money, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I agree that you shouldn't be punished, but then again, it is a business and no one's guaranteed work,
Yeah.
unfortunately, regardless of talent.
Right. I just look at, if you look, there are 32 starting jobs in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not he's worthy of a starting job, he's certainly worthy of a backup job.
Yeah.
If you take the top 64 quarterbacks in the NFL, he's in that conversation of the top 64, no doubt about it.
No
So
argument.
It is difficult, I'm sure he feels that way, that it's difficult to see himself not on a team while there are some players who aren't, Bryce Petty. You're going to tell me, Colin Kaepernick's clearly a better option than Bryce Petty, but hey, like you said, Bill, it is a business, and clearly owners worry about that kind of stuff.
And the last thing I'll say on that is, I mean, regardless of it, there are worse second-string quarterbacks, but in the end, man got paid a lot of money to play a game. It's not as if he isn't well off if he's at all intelligent, so I'm not going to feel too bad if he doesn't get a job in the NFL, period. Third string even,
Yeah.
If he even gets to start again, good for him. All the best to him. I hope if someone wants to pick him up, he does well. I have no issues with that at all, but I'm not going to feel bad if it turns the other way.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. All right. So Bruno Giacomini, one of my, for whatever reason, one of my favorite names to say, Bruno Giacomini, former right tackle of the New York Jets, who made 37 starts over the last 3 years. Only started 5 last year with an injured back. He was pretty rock solid prior to that. I mean, he's 6'7", 318 pounds. He signed with the Houston Texans, which I think is a great low-key signing for them, with Derek Newton going down at the end of last year, tearing 2 patellar tendons. Yeah. They're going to need a right tackle to keep Deshaun Watson and or Tom Savage upright. You're talking about a playoff team without a quarter. They're making the playoffs every year without a starting quarterback, realistically. So good for Houston. I think this will go a little bit under the radar, but I think Bruno Giacomini could step in and be a valuable piece for them, not only in the running game, but keeping whomever is passing the ball upright. Mm-hmm. Peyton Manning in the news. Nice to see Mr. Manning in the news cycle. He is going to host the 25th ESPYs in July. What do you think? I don't know if you recall his SNL skit.
There's a couple on there pretty good.
Yeah, Manning seems
he's definitely a character, so I think it was a good choice to go with.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most iconic cash in while he's still around, relatively young for a recently retired player. So, good to see Manning, the former Tennessee Volunteer, up there and hosting the ESPYs.
Weekly shout out.
That's right.
Going old school with that shout out too.
Old school, yeah. The former Citrus Bowl MVP for the Tennessee Volunteers.
I wouldn't be surprised if Peyton Manning ends up as an analyst anyway. Just one of the smartest guys to play the game, as far as in the context of the game.
Yeah.
Who would be better to listen to talking about breaking down plays than Peyton Manning? I can't really think of anybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd be glued to my TV or radio or wherever he's speaking about football. I mean, one of the most cerebral players ever. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Think what you want on a personal level of Peyton Manning. The man knows the game for sure.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever get into coaching. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would love to see him maybe not as an analyst, which obviously, from a selfish perspective, I would totally take that as number one. But I think with his competitive drive, he could go the route of John Elway and be an executive for a front office and build a team.
Mm-hmm. He'll definitely do something.
Yeah.
He didn't walk away from football easily. He got that second ring.
Yeah.
Got it, quote unquote, but yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. The Madden cover has the face of the cover of Madden, the GOAT, has been announced. Tom Brady will grace the cover of Madden, marking the first time ever consecutive players on the same team graced the cover of Madden. I know we talked a little bit before the show. I am certainly not a believer in the Madden curse. What do you guys think? Do you think the Madden curse will get Tom Brady?
Nah, I think he'll dodge it this year.
I'm not superstitious, as I said earlier, and even if it was true, if there is someone that it would just go right around, the man is Teflon. Nothing sticks to him. He missed out on 4 games, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Could have been much worse. Surprised it wasn't.
Yeah, and that was due to suspension. Yeah. Outside of a Bernard Pollard low shot to the knee, Brady doesn't miss time, and obviously that's suspension.
Yeah, but he had the suspension, and the 1 year he was injured. Yeah, that was it.
Pollard got him low.
Yeah,
and
which is why that's not allowed.
Absolutely.
I like to think it as one more last screw you to Roger Goodell.
Yeah.
He had the season he had, and he was in contention for MVP, won the Super Bowl, and then just last
yeah.
Now everyone's gonna look at me now on the cover of this game.
Yeah, and you can see how fired up he was on the field. I mean, he only threw 2 picks last year in 12 games. That's remarkable. And I know that all the players and the coaches are saying the right thing, but I love that Robert Kraft said that this was extra special. I would prefer to see people be honest about it. You can't tell me that Tom Brady wasn't fired up to win that Super Bowl a little bit more because of that suspension.
It would have to do it to you. It would do it to me. I don't care if he is already a 4-time champion.
Yeah.
I
mean, the guy is 5-2 in Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he still plays with a chip on his shoulder for falling so far in the draft. So you can't tell me that something like that ddidn't drive and motivate him to work even harder.
Just another chip on his shoulder.
He was definitely driven, and to be driven, even making it to that many Super Bowls, you'd feel you'd be kind of blasé about it if such a thing could exist. If anyone could pull it off, it's Tom Brady.
Yeah. So, anywho, This upcoming season, the Carolina Panthers are going to limit Thomas Davis's snaps. He seems to be in the running for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award every single year, but he is getting up there in age, and they've drafted some young linebackers in recent years. Obviously, they have Luke Kuechly, so it'll be nice to see Thomas Davis. Hopefully, his career can extend a little bit longer, a la someone like Takeo Spikes or London Fletcher, with him playing a little bit less, maybe coming off the field a little bit more. So it'll be good to see. Mm-hmm. Other random news, Lane Kiffin, former head coach of the Oakland Raiders, has offered 13-year-old Caden Martin a full scholarship to Florida Atlantic University. It seems like every couple of years you hear a story like this. This one, a little bit interesting. Obviously, Caden Martin is the son of former NFL quarterback T. Martin, who won a national championship in 1998 with the
Tennessee Volunteers.
T. Martin is now the offensive coordinator at the University of Southern California, aka USC. So he's spent some time with Lane Kiffin in his career. It's a little bit odd. I don't know if this is a move by Lane Kiffin to troll Volunteers fans who hate him, or if this is respect to former colleague T. Martin. So I don't know. It's a little bit interesting. T. Martin, one of the Brady Six, one of the quarterbacks drafted in 2000 ahead of Tom Brady, round 5, pick 163. Do you guys have a take on colleges offering full scholarships to middle school players when they still have 4 years of high school football to play? I mean, you're talking kids that are playing. If you can scout kids that are playing in middle school and know that they're going to be D1 college players, I mean, you're a darn good scout. What do you guys have a take on that?
That's really bizarre. I mean, if you can actually see that talent at that age, then yeah, kudos to him for being able to spot that. That's darn impressive in and of itself. But I don't know, man. Just putting that kind of pressure on a kid it can be worrying.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and actually, if you look back through those, where these really young kids get offered these scholarships, they usually end up going to a different school anyway. So I'm not really sure what Lane Kiffin was going for there. Maybe to get some exposure for Florida Atlantic. Maybe, like I said, trolling the Vols or paying respect to T. Martin.
A lot can happen in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure if he actually ends up being somebody pretty good, that he's going to get some scholarships from maybe like one of the better schools, one of the more, I guess, higher named schools.
Yeah. And a lot can happen in 4 years. The kid could decide he hates football. Mm-hmm. You never know. So I thought it was worth mentioning. Lane Kiffin obviously burned out of the NFL. And by burned out, I mean he crashed and burned. Mm-hmm. And so he spent some time with Nick Saban in Alabama, rebuilding his image. And now he is the head coach at Florida Atlantic. Adam Pac-Man Jones pleads guilty to misdemeanor obstruction. He was arrested on January 3rd. Originally was a felony charge. It was dropped down to a misdemeanor. He was given time served, 2 days of jail time. He's 33. It's continuing a trend of his entire career, ever since he came out of West Virginia. Him getting arrested, him getting in trouble, just something going on. He's still subject to NFL discipline. Do you think Pac-Man gets suspended? Do you think he gets cut? Do you think, what do you think happens, Tom?
I don't think he get cut just because it's the Bengals. I mean, they take on anybody. I could see maybe like a 2-game suspension just because he's a repeat offender. I mean, pretty much his entire career has been him getting arrested.
Yeah, who could forget the incident in Dallas when he attacked his own bodyguards?
That's a good thing to do, I think.
Yeah. So
attack the guys that are protecting you from being attacked.
It's certainly troublesome.
It would certainly make it easier to hire the next set of bodyguards for sure.
Exactly. What qualifies you to get beat up by me?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, just somebody with that kind of discipline and maturity problems. I don't know, unless he does a quick U-turn, he's probably not going to last that much longer in the league. But, I mean, at his age, how much longer was he going to last to begin with? But, yeah, I definitely don't see I'm agreeing with Tom pretty much everything he was saying. That I don't see the Bengals cutting him regardless of is it the Bengals or not. I could see most teams just kind of wait and see what the NFL is going to do before they even consider what they're doing as well. But We'll find out, obviously.
We shall see. Speaking of troubled players, Josh Gordon had his appeal rejected. He was told that he can reapply again in September. Jason Cole of Bleacher Report reports that Gordon is desperate for money He was recently fired by his agent, and he's seeking an agent that can bankroll him until he gets back into the league. Josh Gordon hasn't played a snap since 2014. Obviously a dynamic playmaker back then. I mean, you look at, he was leading the league in receiving yards with Browns quarterbacks.
So you would say his
It's a hard thing to do.
agent would have quit, or was his agent bankrolling him before?
I do not know if his agent was previously bankrolling him, but his agent fired him.
His agent fired him.
Yes.
That's
similar to what happened to Johnny Manziel.
Okay, because usually it's the other way. I mean, just,
Yeah. Yep. So his agent terminated the contract
right,
and
right.
fired him.
Okay.
Yeah. So it seems to happen here and there with the troubled players where their agents fire them. I mean, hard to blame the guy. Like, client probably clamoring for money and hasn't played since 2014. Not really bringing you.
I'm just, I don't want to be pedantic, just going with the verbiage. When, you have an agent, you're the one that technically is the employer in the relationship. I would think that your agent terminates a contract. That's like them quitting. I guess not quitting is the right way to put it, but still.
Yeah.
The way they say is fired.
Yeah, what
it's
they
just,
use in the
it's
media.
just weird. I can accept that it's just weird.
Yep. So I'd be really interested to know how that appeal meeting went with Roger Goodell and Josh Gordon. I think this continues a trend that everyone sees where Roger Goodell is pretty inconsistent with punishments.
Right.
I mean, Josh Gordon, yes, he has his troubles. He seems to have his nose clean, and he seems to be doing well. I don't know for sure. Obviously, I don't know the guy, but, guys can get suspended for 4 games for domestic abuse, and Josh Gordon hasn't played since 2014 for drinking. So, again, like I said, continues that trend of Goodell potentially that weird scale in the NFL with
Because drinking's definitely worse.
Right. So
The crooked line of a standard.
yeah. So hopefully he stays clean. He reapplies in September and gets back into the league. I'd love to see him play again. He's still, I believe, he's only 26. So he's
We've got plenty of years to show
Yeah.
that he was the talent everyone thought he was.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if, maybe he had another mishap that just hasn't been reported yet. But, I mean, it's unlikely just because we're dealing with Roger Goodell here, but still makes you think.
You can speculate all
Yeah.
day, but, until something actually gets said, you can't.
Yeah, he's certainly no Randy Gregory.
Yeah,
Was
we
it
know.
7 now or something?
Yeah, Randy Gregory has gone the Justin Blackmon route or the Rolando McClain.
I was going to say, or Rolando McClain. Let's not forget him either.
Yeah, follow up another arrest for Rolando McClain. Seems, obviously, I think we've talked about it on another show where these discipline issues are really piling up, and, it's just the nature of the world right now. Anything you do, you're on camera. So, in more positive news, Beth Mowins and Rex Ryan are going to call the Chargers-Broncos Week 1 Monday Night Football game, the second game of the doubleheader. Huge news. Beth Mowins is the first female to call a nationally televised NFL game. Football game, that is. So kudos to her. That's really awesome. She's been covering college football for ESPN since, I believe, 94, something like that. So she certainly knows her stuff. It's really cool to see. And she's the first female play-by-play calling an NFL game since 1987. So certainly think long overdue, and more power to her.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And hopefully she does well. I'll certainly be tuned
Best
into
of
that
luck to
game.
her.
Week 1, the final game of Week 1. So a lot of cool stuff, and it'll be nice to see Rex Ryan in the booth. I think he's well suited for play-by-play.
Anybody's seen Hard Knocks when he was on there, he's a fun guy to listen to.
They might have to have that bleep button ready, but
Once or twice. Yeah.
Tony Dungy, cover your ears. Deion Buchanan had ankle surgery and could start the season on the physically unable to perform list. He missed the final 3 games last season. I think this is kind of low-key big news for the Arizona Cardinals. Deion Buchanan being one of the better hybrid linebacker safeties in the league. And he is a key cog for that Cardinals defense. If they want to return to prominence and get back to the one-goal Super Bowl ring, then they're going to need Deion Buchanan. And, like I said, I think this could be really impactful for them. Do you think without Deion Buchanan, do you think they have a chance to keep that defense together?
It depends how long he's out for. I mean, if he just misses maybe like a game or 2 to start the season, then yeah. But
if he's on that pup, he's going to miss a few games.
Yeah, I mean, 6 games at least if you're on there. I mean, that could definitely hurt them a little bit. But I think Reddick can kind of step in maybe.
Yeah, Temple linebacker Hassan Reddick could step in there. He's played defensive end, corner, safety, and linebacker in his career, but I certainly see him more of as a linebacker in the NFL. where Deion Buchanan had much more range. It could really cover the athletic receiving tight ends, which I think was underrated for the Cardinals, 2 years ago when they're considered a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Factor that with the rest of that team's getting older too. They're really going to need to rely on that defense, and without him,
I think their questions lie more on offense though. Like, can Carson Palmer get back to that form he was at 2 years ago? Or
no.
Well, we'll see.
There's
I mean,
the
if
easy
you look
answer.
at the way that the offenses are structured, a lot of them are a lot of these like short inside passes. Obviously, Brady's notorious for using his tight ends.
Absolutely.
Dak Prescott was very much a Cole Beasley guy, and that really worked out well for them. So having someone that can cover that particular range of the field it's very powerful, and and missing that is going to hurt.
Yeah, it can certainly set your defense apart when you have a guy like that. Not to mention Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, coming off injury himself, and he's hurt every year.
Right, yeah, Mathieu is a very, very good guy, very good player, but
they're two
you got to be on the field.
They're two slot hybrid cover guy linebacker type players.
If neither of them are 100% to start the season, could definitely
they could fall in the hole
damper,
quick.
yeah.
It's a tough division to play in.
Or they could come out strong in the end. We'll find out.
Yeah, so we shall see. In other news, Blaine Gabbert signed with the Arizona Cardinals. What do you think about Blaine Gabbert? You think he can usurp the Carson Palmer?
No. That's pretty much all I had to say on this.
Blaine.
No.
I mean, I think they're making up for their possible shortcomings on defense by hiring a top-notch quarterback, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Elite. Blaine Gabbert. Elite.
On his third
Elite.
Team. On his third team.
Yes, Blaine Gabbert on his third team. Played admirably in spots the last 2 years for the 49ers. I think, he earned, with his game tape, he earned himself backup quarterback money for the rest of his career. I think he could compete with Drew Stanton for that backup job. I certainly think, Blaine Gabbert's a little bit more mobile. Now, Drew Stanton is a better dancer on the sideline.
That is true.
And these are important things to consider.
Also important to consider that the next hire is obviously going to be Chip Kelly. The Chip Kelly-Blaine Gabbert combination worked very well in San Francisco with their 2-14 record. I think they're going to go for 3 in Arizona. Will be big things.
You heard it here first, Arizona fans. Go Cardinals.
Looking into the future.
Chip Kelly coming your way. Bruce B.A., you're out. Super Bowl ring. Anywho, last piece of news around the NFL. Jason McCourty signed with the Cleveland Browns. 2-year, $6 million deal with $2 million guaranteed. We talked about Jason McCourty on a previous episode. We won't get into too much detail here, but I think it's a quality low-key signing for the Cleveland Browns, continuing a trend. They've had themselves a great offseason.
They have. Can they put it all together on the field?
Of course not.
Big question.
No, they won't. They're Cleveland, but if they can at least get in the top 20, which okay. I mean that's a bit strong. I'll say if they can get within the top 3/4 of the league, that will be definitely a positive direction for them.
Yeah.
If they can get more than one win.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they're 31, that's still positive, I guess.
We shall see.
We shall see. I mean, there was obviously arguments over who was actually worse between Cleveland and San Francisco. There's definitely the argument that San Francisco was actually more devoid of talent.
I actually agree with that.
The schedule panned out the way it did, and obviously wins, losses aren't necessarily reflective of the talent, and you would think the better team wins usually. Not always the case.
It's any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday.
This ain't basketball.
Willie Beeman. All right. Transitioning into our next segment here, we have our quarterback rankings for the first time in 2017. Now, these are based on our projected starters. I will read through mine, and then I will spend a little bit more detail on my top 10. Feel free to interject if anything shocks you, or Bill or Tom, if anything shocks you, or you want to make a point about something. And then Tom will do the same. He'll run through his and make a few points about his top 10. And we'll go from there. But you also get an insight into our projected starters and potentially, some fantasy values of quarterbacks. I'll kind of buzz through the bottom of the league here. 32, I have Jared Goff. He was just abysmal. 63.6 quarterback rating last year. Mike Glennon at 31. Cody Kessler at 30. I mean, he's a competitive guy, but I don't think he's a realistic option. I think he'll be a long-term backup. Deshaun Watson at 29, simply because he has not played in the league. Trevor Siemian at 28. Josh McCown, who I believe will win the Jets' starting job, at least at the beginning of the season, at 27. 26, the perpetually injured Brian Hoyer. 25, Tyrod Taylor. Shockingly, I have 24, Carson Palmer of the Arizona Cardinals. I think Father Time has gotten there, and he's done for.
He's on the way out for sure.
On the way out. At 23, the little bit younger version of Carson Palmer, Joe Flacco of the Baltimore Ravens. Certainly not elite in my books.
Can I point out the only quarterback to throw 20-plus passes? Let me get this phrase right. The only quarterback to throw less 20 passes of 20-plus more yards or more than Dak Prescott. Yeah. I'm saying that wrong, aren't I?
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say?
You're saying it backwards. Yeah.
The only one
to attempt fewer. Yeah.
To attempt fewer times than Dak Prescott.
Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, put that in perspective. Only Dak Prescott was captain check down more than Joe Flacco.
Right.
Yeah. On to the next one, 22, Ryan Tannehill. I don't believe in Mr. Tannehill, especially coming off of injury. Adam Gase may be the quarterback whisperer, but Tannehill is not the long-term answer there. At 21, a little shout-out to Jake here, Blake Bortles. I think Bortles bounces back a little bit here. At 20, Sam Bradford of the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's a quarterback whose statistics will paint a different story than what he is actually on the field. He looks a little bit, statistically, you look at it, his 99.3 rating, his 20 touchdowns, 5 picks, and 3,877 yards. He had a career best 7 yards per attempt, but it didn't result in wins, right? The team started off 5-0, 4-0 under his watch. Sean Hill started the first game, but Bradford didn't take chances when it mattered, and they lost games. At number 19, I have Andy Dalton of the Cincinnati Bengals. At number 18, I have Kirk Cousins of the Redskins. I don't believe that he's a franchise quarterback. I think he can succeed in the right situation, but I have him around that middle of the pack range. At number 17, this may draw some ire, but I have Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. I think he's certainly a product of that offensive line and obviously the running game. And with a season's full of tape against him and teams stacking the box against Zeke and his sophomore slump to come, I think Dak Prescott's statistics this season will be far and away worse than they were last year. Kudos to him for having a good year, but I just don't think he's certainly not, elite by any stretch of the imagination.
25-4.
So Dak had 3,667 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 picks,
right.
And he was sacked 25 times. So
23-4 is not as good as 27-2, and no one's saying Nick Foles is one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Absolutely.
Don't forget his 6 rushing touchdowns, too.
I'm talking, yeah. Good for you, Tom. You feel free to defend your quarterback. But
those are not passing stats.
But since I have him at 17, that's pretty good for a guy coming into a second season. At number 16, I think perfectly fitting in the middle of the pack is Alex Smith, Chiefs. He's perfectly consistent. 3,500 yards last year, 15 touchdowns, 8 picks. Maybe that number will start to go up. Maybe they'll start to get some guys more involved in the passing game. Travis Kelce, obviously a big deal. I don't think Alex Smith will ever win the big one, but I am pulling for him. At number 15, I have Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, season would have went way differently for him had he had some reliable receiving options and a better offensive line. Not making excuses, but I have him at 15 for a reason, and there's a reason. When you look at NFL.com, ESPN.com, or you watch the shows, there's a reason that all GMs basically rank Carson Wentz behind Mariota as the young quarterback they would build their team around. He is close to an eidetic memory, seems to be a great character guy, and he just he elevates the play of those around him.
Right, and notably, would have done better if he had more talent around him is not the same thing as is great. He just needs everyone great around him.
Right. So I think Carson Wentz is going to have a great year. Certainly rooting for it, but we'll see what happens.
I'm hoping he's the best quarterback of all time, personally. I'm just not saying it yet.
There you have it. At number 14, I have Cam Newton. I think he bounces back a little bit. I think they rely a little bit more on the run, but coming off a season where he had a 75.8 passer rating and was sacked 36 times, Christian McCaffrey.
Let's not forget that surgery.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Cameron Newton. At number 13, I have Jameis Winston. I struggled a little bit to put him up at 13. He likes to turn over the ball. We'll see what happens with famous Jameis, but I think that they just have so much talent on that offense now that I've got to keep him up there. At number 12, Eli Manning of the New York Giants. This may be the second best team he's ever been on, and we'll see what he can do with it.
Yeah.
Don't count him out. At number 11, Andrew Luck quietly had a pretty decent year last year, even though most people felt like it was a down year. He came away with 4,240 yards, 31 touchdowns, and a 96.4 quarterback rating. The big one, obviously, he was sacked 41 times last year. So he holds the ball a little long, not to mention doesn't have a very good offensive line. We'll see what happens. At number 10, here we go. Marcus Mariota of the Tennessee Titans, coming off a season with a 95.6 passer rating, 26 touchdowns, 9 picks. The thing that stands out to me most about Marcus Mariota that elevated him into my top 10, how efficient he is in the red zone. The guy's just money. Doesn't turn the ball over in the red zone, and he gets the ball in the paint. So good for Mariota. Put him in my top 10. Number 9, Phillip Rivers. A really high rash of interceptions the last few years. 21 specifically last season. 36 sacks he took. But he still threw for 4,386 yards and 33 touchdowns with me at receiver, basically. So
you don't like Tyrell Williams?
I don't like Tyrell Williams. So now that he has Mike Williams this year, Hunter Henry coming into his second year, I think Phillip Rivers bounces back in a big way. Maybe the move out of San Diego gets the injury bug off their back. It seems like the last 3 seasons they've just been decimated by injuries. So we'll see what happens. At number 8, Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks. I'm not as big on Russell Wilson, but I can't drop him out of my top 10 simply because the guy's a winner. We'll see what happens. At number 7, Matthew Stafford. I think Stafford and Jim Bob Cooter, marriage made in heaven, continue to do good things for the Lions. Number 6, Ben Roethlisberger. He may have considered retirement, but hey, 29 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and a 95.4 quarterback rating last year. I know he misses a little time every year, but that offensive line did a good job keeping him upright anyway. He only took 17 sacks. At number 5, big mover and shaker here, Derek Carr of the Oakland Raiders. Fractured fibula ended his season a little early. Still came away with nearly 4,000 yards, 28 scores, and only 6 picks. So Derek Carr doing big things for the Oakland Raiders. I think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. At number 4, Drew Brees. You can never count the guy out. 5,208 yards passing last year. Quietly, when it's all said and done, he may have all the passing records. He just seems to throw for 5,000 yards every single year. In addition to those 5,000 yards, he had 37 scores and only 15 picks. 101.7 ranking. So,
and then he gets eliminated in the first round.
And then he may not win another Super Bowl, but the guy's going to put up numbers every single year.
Yeah.
I mean, the offense pretty much runs through him.
Yeah, and they just churn out receivers seemingly every year. So Mike Thomas looks like he's going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah.
They felt comfortable enough with him that they could trade away Brandon Cooks. Matt Ryan at number 3 of the Atlanta Falcons, coming off that Super Bowl loss. I mean, he put up nearly 5,000 yards, 38 scores, and only 7 picks for that 117.1 rating. Good for best in the league. I don't think he'll have as good a year with Sarkisian at offensive coordinator versus having Shanahan, but Matt Ryan is still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. At number 2, Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers, 40 scores and 7 picks. Hard to count the guy out. He gets hit a lot, but I certainly like Aaron Rodgers in that top 2. And number 1, you certainly can't go wrong with Tom Brady of the New England Patriots. Seemingly year after year after year after year after year, you get the point. 28 scores, 2 picks, 112.2 rating, only took 15 sacks, threw for 3,554 yards in a season where they had the league's leading rush touchdown scorer, missing 4 games with that stat line.
Pretty solid.
Pretty darn solid. That gives you my quarterback rankings heading into the 2017 NFL season. What do you think, guys?
It's actually pretty, for the most part, on par with mine. I mean, there's a couple players here and there, but
Some obvious ones, probably, I imagine. I really don't like New England. That's all I have to say.
but you can't not put
Do you
Tom
deny
No.
the greatness? Of course.
Say, I want to say, like a lot of people do, that Aaron Rodgers, well, I mean, it's not that he should be number 1 this year, but a lot of people have said lately, the past few years, Aaron Rodgers, he's the best quarterback in the game right now, but Tom Brady just hangs around and he wins and he puts up 28-2 in 12 games. Just Jesus Christ, What else can you say?
Nothing. All right, Tom. Tom, hopefully you surprise me and you put Tyrod Taylor on top of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So let's get to it.
Well, I started my list the same as yours. Jared Goff. He just looked out of place last year. He didn't really look like he fit in. 31, I got Cody Kessler. I just feel like he doesn't really have the arm strength or really the intangibles to really be that great quarterback. He might be able to fill in here and there, but
kind of reminds me of a Colt McCoy. Interestingly enough, he did put up a 92.3 passer rating, but in very limited action took 21 sacks.
yeah, and he gets hurt. He got hurt 2 or 3 times just in his rookie year.
Yeah.
30, I have Josh McCown. He's 37, I believe.
37, that's correct.
And he's lacking young talent on that team, so I don't feel like it's a match made in heaven. 29, just like you, I have Deshaun Watson, pretty much just because he hasn't played. I mean, we really need to see what he does first. 28, I have Blake Bortles. 27.
Ooh. Shots fired.
Until I finally see him better, I'm not going to put him higher.
Oh, apparently he's going to win 5 Super Bowls, according to a friend of ours.
Yeah.
How you doing, Jake?
27, I have Mike Lennon. 26, Brian Hoyer, same as you. 25, I have Trevor Siemian. I feel like he's good enough to command an offense. He's not going to make any real flashy plays, but he can win games. 24, I have Sam Bradford. I feel like he doesn't like really trying to force plays, trying to make that big play. He's too much of a safe play.
Yeah, Sammy Sleeves, check down Sammy. Interestingly enough, Bucky Brooks of NFL Network said Sam Bradford will be a top 10 quarterback this year.
I did see that. I don't believe it, though.
Neither do I.
We're unanimous on that one. I'll never believe that until it happens.
Yeah, I probably still wouldn't believe that. 23, I have Tyrod Taylor. He's an average quarterback. 22, Andy Dalton. I feel like he regressed a little bit after Hugh Jackson left. 21, Carson Palmer. I mean, he still has one of the better receivers in the league. As long as he can just kind of throw it up.
Yeah, big thing for them. As he's getting older, he seems like he's holding the ball longer. He took 40 sacks last year, which is uncharacteristic of a quarterback like himself.
Yeah. 20, I have Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he's not great, but he did have a better season last year than his first portion of his career. 19, Alex Smith. I mean, he's the definition of average. He can win you regular season games, but he probably won't win you the big one.
Small guy, weak arm.
18, you guys won't like this, but I have Carson Wentz. I want to see the Eagles win some more games. I know it's not all on him, but the best quarterbacks win games for their teams.
You put them floating around average, I'm not going to argue.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely...
I do disagree with your analysis, though. We're talking about quarterbacks as quarterbacks, not how their team fared.
I'm aware, but still. Like I said, the best quarterbacks usually are a difference between their team winning games and losing games. But I definitely expect him to make a jump up, maybe like top 12. 17, I have Marcus Mariota. I want to see him. I know it's a little low for him, but I mean, he really had one good year. His rookie season was kind of hit or miss.
So before we even get there, I have to jump in. Mm-hmm. You're going to rank Dak Prescott higher than Marcus Mariota.
I am.
There isn't a planet in the galaxy where that's true.
This is my quarterback rankings.
No, that's fair, but
I mean, they only actually
for
play
debate.
on this one.
Yes.
Making
my
yes,
analysis
true.
even more true.
Yeah.
I mean, Marcus Mariota was the best red zone quarterback in the NFL last year, and that's where the money happens.
Right.
It's tough for me to stand to reason that he'd be ranked so low. But as you said, it is your quarterback ranking, and it is also my right to debate it.
It is. 16, I have Eli Manning. They added some weapons to him, but I feel like he's also kind of regressed the last couple of years. I feel like age is coming to him. He doesn't seem like he has as much arm strength as he did before, and he also takes a lot of hits. Kirk Cousins at 15. I feel like the loss of Deshaun Jackson is going to hurt. And also the loss of Pierre Garçon. I mean, he's not a number one receiver.
And
but
he still put up 1,000 yards last year.
He's your typical veteran receiver that can make the big plays when needed.
Hoyer to Garcon, get your fantasy connection.
It's going to happen.
I say to the point of the Redskins losing targets. I don't remember who wrote the list, but it was a list of the top 5 in the NFC East as far as receivers, and the Redskins didn't have a player on there.
Yeah,
and they went from having one of the better ones in Jackson, and Garcon's not exactly a bum, but
yeah. I mean, they still have Jordan Reed, but losing...
But wide receivers, not counting tight ends,
right,
of course.
Losing Garcon and Jackson hurts Jordan Reed.
It does.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, Terrell Pryor was definitely a decent pickup, but unless Josh Doxson can actually show something, I don't...
I do want to point out now that you've thrown every NFC East quarterback below Dak Prescott. This feels like nepotism.
At number 14, the one and only Dak Prescott. Despite what you guys think, I feel like he will make another step. I mean, he's a smart guy. I mean, he definitely relies... You can't say he's not a smart guy. I mean, despite, the DUI. everything like that, if that's what you were about to bring up.
I wasn't. My biggest thing with Dak
I definitely
Prescott,
wouldn't bring that up.
my biggest thing with Dak Prescott is, it was either Bleacher Report or Pro Football Focus did a really good piece on his inaccuracy and how far off his mark he typically throws. I mean, having Zeke Elliott in the backfield and the best offensive line in football certainly padded his stats, but I saw nothing that showed me that he is a top 15 quarterback in the league.
I just feel like he finally has a full offseason to really
It's his
work
second
on
year,
things.
so finally.
Yeah, I won't disagree with him
He's certainly
progressing
good. Yeah.
and actually, learning more and becoming better as a player in and of himself. But I really don't feel like there were many decisions he really had like that. I've heard people say he's a good decision maker, but it's kind of paint by numbers the way that offense worked last year.
Yeah, he's certainly mobile.
Yeah.
But the accuracy is going to be a bigger question mark the more he's in this league and the more game film he puts out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll certainly see, and it's your right as a Cowboys fan to put him up on that pedestal. But at the end of it, he's no Tony Romo. He certainly won't.
Saying Cole, Cole Beasley, jump ball to Tony Romo. Wow, Freudian slip. Des Bryant. Sorry.
Yeah.
Number 13, you might seem a little high for you, but I have Joe Flacco. I still feel like he has the championship pedigree. I mean, he can make throws. He has a strong arm.
He certainly has a strong arm. I will agree with you there.
I mean, their top two receivers are pretty much speed guys, so having a strong arm kind of helps there.
Yeah, they've continued to do him a disservice. Brashad Perryman will not pan out.
He probably won't.
Mike Wallace is not getting any
Mike
younger.
Wallace.
Um,
You pretty much know what you're getting from him now.
Ozzie Newsome and John Harbaugh did a huge disservice by not going after a receiver in the first round. Now, granted, they all went earlier than expected, but there were still some good players available on the board. They could have traded down and done some other things. I know I'm getting off topic here, but we'll see what happens.
Number 12, I have Jameis Winston. Kind of the same place you had him. He's definitely a rising player in this league, and they added a lot of weapons for him.
They certainly did.
11, I have Cam Newton. He regressed a little bit last year, but I feel like adding Christian McCaffrey will take some of the load off him.
And Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be as big of a factor as McCaffrey. I mean, he'll definitely make plays, but
I think he'll perfect the bubble screen, which gets the ball out of Newton's hands quickly.
I think that short game from that team is going to be pretty deadly.
Number 10, I have Phillip Rivers. I mean, like you said, he's been kind of a turnover machine the last couple years, but they added, another legitimate receiver to the core. If Keenan Allen could stay healthy, then that would give him arguably one of the best.
The key factor, and I know he was out again last year, but the key factor is the loss of Danny Woodhead. I'm going to be curious to see how that impacts the team.
I like Melvin Gordon. I mean, obviously he's not really the pass-catching back, but I feel like he can still take the load off Phillip Rivers. Number 9, I have Matt Stafford. My only reason for putting him kind of this low is he doesn't necessarily have legitimate receivers too.
Golden Tate.
Exactly my
Golden Tate. Marvin Jones.
I mean, he's definitely the reason they're in the majority of their games, or definitely the reason they made the playoffs last year. I mean, just because with all his comebacks, but he definitely has still some things to work on, but he's getting up there. Russell Wilson at 8, just like you. He doesn't really have all the flashiness of the top quarterbacks, but he wins games, and you can't deny that. At number 7, I have Andrew Luck. I mean, he had a rough year last year, but he was injured for the majority of the year. I feel like he'll have a comeback year. They're finally building up the defense, so that could help out the offense a little bit.
Just got to be careful of that shoulder.
Yeah. At number 6, I have Drew Brees. He, like you said, he puts up numbers every year, but his team isn't really winning anymore. And obviously you can kind of put that on the defense a little bit, but at the same time...
Yeah, he's putting up 35 to 40 points a game. I certainly don't put that on his shoulders.
He is getting up there.
He can't cover, too.
He is getting up there in age. And plus, I mean, there are other guys that I feel are better in the league. At number 5, I have Big Ben. Despite his injuries every year, I mean, they're a team you can count on making the AFC Championship almost every year. And a lot of that has to do with Big Ben.
Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, maybe 5 years down the road. Number 4, I have Derek Carr. He's a rising star in this league, and they have a good receiving core, and they added Jarrett Cook to it. And
Marshawn Lynch in the backfield.
I say the running game shouldn't be too bad either.
Yeah, he's definitely the better of the Carr brothers. No,
Without a doubt.
no,
Now, to be fair, David got pummeled,
that is,
and it got his career off to a terrible start. And David did win a Super Bowl as a backup.
Okay. Number 3, just like you have Matt Ryan. He's the former
reigning
MVP, I guess, yeah. But like you said, I feel like the Shanahan loss will hurt a little bit, not too much, because he's still a professional athlete, but just the play calling might knock him down a few notches. And number 2, I have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's pretty much nothing this guy can't do. I mean,
another season with 104.2 quarterback rating.
Yeah, I mean he's got his top 3 receivers back, and they added Martellus Bennett. He can also run too. I mean, it's not something he does consistently, but you can't count it out.
He keeps plays alive.
Yeah.
No, he's definitely got athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
Who did he? There was something about a really crazy. Oh,
Number
okay.
1.
That was the Cowboys game I was referencing, in case anyone was wondering.
Number 1, obviously, TB12, Tom Brady.
The GOAT.
I mean, just what pretty much sticking it to Goodell last year, what he was able to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly the best quarterback in NFL history.
Unreal. I mean, the guy, to his credit, works extremely hard,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't put anything bad in his body.
The dude's in better shape than he was at 22.
Right. I certainly wouldn't be, pushing 40, never having had coffee, not drinking alcohol. I love my beer. I love my scotch.
I'll be glad if I'm pushing 40.
I'd
be happy if I'd be pushing.
Just to get to 40, what's that, like 5.5 years away from me, man? That's good enough.
We're good.
I'll check out after that.
Yeah, Brady's out there beating 21, 22-year-old kids in football. So.
And if I can bring up, as has been brought up on the show before, I believe, the team has gotten better around him. That's going to be a factor. So even if he himself regressed a little,
right,
I believe they'd make up for the shortcomings. And I don't think he will, don't get me wrong, but even if he did, geez, we could be looking at number 6.
Yeah.
And I don't because I don't like New England. I really don't.
Truth be told, I think that's was part of their offseason strategy. Let's start to phase into more playmaking players. I know it was a little bit redundant, but Gronk doesn't stay healthy. Brady's getting older. Let's get some other guys who are electric, who can score. Mm-hmm. They have Deion Lewis. Bring in a Brandon Cooks. Oh, my gosh. Let's revamp our defense. Bring in Steph Gilmore. So there's a lot going on.
Resign Hightower.
Yeah, Dante Hightower staying. Crushed my soul.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Belichick won't be leaving when Tom Brady retires anyway, because there's speculation about that, of course.
Oh, of course.
Because Brady can't last more than, I'm going to go 5 years. I wanted to say no more than 3, probably like a couple years ago, but I'm pretty sure that's not true. So we'll go 5 right now,
Yeah.
And Belichick's not exactly a spring chicken himself.
Yeah.
So, but he could be there when he's 80. Who knows?
It's going to be interesting to see. I certainly hope that maybe if he gets one more, just walk away. Just walk away, man. No one will ever question if you're the greatest.
I think he can get one more after that.
Right. So just walk away. Do your thing.
Right.
Coach.
Even the asterisks that exist with some of those championships, and I think that those asterisks are deserved. But I don't think you can argue that they're not the best at what they do.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Right, exactly. I mean, to have the kind of mind that thinks of things like, air pressure in a football, you have to be very bright.
Yeah. So there you have it. There you have our first quarterback rankings, not only of our show, but of the 2017 NFL season. They'll be sure to change as starters get announced and or, games start happening, live action. Obviously, if there's a major injury, somebody will drop out, things like that. I certainly disagree with Tom's ranking of Dak Prescott. I'll stay on record with that one. Be sure to check out our rankings at www.dbcfootball.com. Tom, I'll give you one more slice at defending why Dak Prescott belongs in the top 15.
He wins games. Their defense definitely didn't.
Rex Grossman made it to a Super Bowl.
That is true. But that was their defense.
Offensive line and Zeke.
I mean, I'm not going to say all Dallas fans, but with enough Dallas fans, apparently there are 2 things that win the game always, all the time. It's either the quarterback or the defense. Well, my defense isn't doing it, so it's all my quarterback, right?
Pretty much.
Is that the logic?
The quarterback gets credited for the wins, so.
So there you have it. We'll certainly be subject to more of those debates moving forward. I'll certainly love having that debate. Watching Dak Prescott's tape, I put him at 17, so we're not too far off. But interestingly enough, you have him ranked above all the other NFC East quarterbacks. So that'll about do it for us today. Be sure to check us out next week, episode 10, our first kind of milestone there.
Our first double digit.
Our first double-digit episode. We look forward to that. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming back and listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at dbc_football.com. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, and tell your friends to do so as well. Share our page. Help us out. Check us out on YouTube, DBC Football, not BBC Football. And again, our website is www.dbcfootball.com for our blog, photo galleries, and even links to subscribe to our podcast. So be sure to
stay humble,
drink craft beer,
have a good time, and love football. Thanks for joining us.